Greetings. My name is José Pereira and I am here to talk about the different shades of brand hate, a qualitative dive into the ubiquitous animosity between customers and brands. Before going any further, I would like to thank Dr. Sandra Loureiro for her collaboration, as well as the 2020 Global Marketing Conference organizers and participants for showing interest in this topic. The marketing journey that is about to start will be divided into 5 stops, with literature review and discussion of results garnering special attention. First off, relevance of the topic. For the past decades, there has been a market shift, going from a one sale, cold transactional mindset to a multiple sales, closer, more relational, more emotional one. Along with new technologies and society's evolution, this change affected both companies and customers, with the latter part becoming more impatient, unforgiving, and conscious about the abundance of choices. The negativity and its importance in the mind of the consumers goes against the positive bias that used to dominate academia up until recently, with studies about brand liking, brand loving, and all the positive aspects that surround the relationship between companies and customers. Another important point is that many theories and strategies of CEOs nowadays are being put in check with the more emotional side of their customers and the negative aspects that the customers pick on. In order to try and be a part of the solution, three research questions were formulated. How may brand hate be conceptualized? What are the facets of brand hate? Do brand love and brand hate share a similar prototype? To accompany them, three main objectives were set: to conduct a thorough literature review, to perform semi-structured, in-depth interviews, analyzing them and discussing them while linking them to academia, and at the end, build a literary crossing, a dictionary, bilingual one, that could be used in future studies by other scholars. The second stop will be an extract of the literature review, divided in four subtopics. Going from the most general to the most specific translates into starting with the topic emotions. After learning about the various emotional types and understanding what is a prototype, it is important to note that positive and negative emotions are the base of all relationships, business and otherwise. Exhibit A are the consumer brand relationships, with relationship marketing assisting to explain how firms/patrons interact between each other and why there is a proclivity to humanize brands, products, or services. Narrowing the review leads to the academic predecessor of brand hate, which is brand love. Although there is a countercurrent that does not agree with such method, this subject combines psychology and branding to produce a prototype allowing antecedents and outcomes that are already being tested on the business world. From a similar mold comes the star concept, brand hate. After stage 0 where the topic was fleetingly discussed, academia is currently focused on refining a definition, discussing determinants, for example negative past experiences, outcomes, for example negative word of mouth, and wondering if it's reversible or not. Contrarily to brand love, brand hate has barely been field tested, but one way to do so would be to analyze online and offline anti-brand communities, specifically the negative double jeopardy that affects them. Moving on to the methodological approach, the decision was to complement the existing quantitative research with a qualitative study. Having a sample of 8 male and 8 female participants of 5 different age classes, the preferred tool was a non-standardized interview, combining a list of 10 open-ended, order-flexible questions with a one-on-one search for the emotions and motivations behind brand hate. Using the resulting audio files, the pre-analysis started with the creation of a transcript that only cared about content and assuring anonymity through the creation of aliases. On the B side of this point are the supporting methodologies. Branching out from the grounded theory, which is a proven manner to generate new concepts and/or revisit recent findings, the chief methodology was the constructivist grounded theory. CGT, as it's also known, allowed for a different look at brand hate by combining the socially built reality of interviewer and participants alike. By encouraging the researcher to read the main articles about the thematic, this process gave the power to personalize the research, for example, by saying corporate misconduct instead of corporate wrongdoing, and intercalate its various phases. Another significant part of the process was creating codes for all the topics under scrutiny and divide them into different orders. The fourth chapter presents the results and main conclusions of this study. Responding to research question number 2, 7 facets of brand hate were identified and linked to academia via 3 segments: concordant, discordant, and aspects not yet confirmed by the literature. The first facet that concurs with the existing knowledge states that emotions play a major role in the buying and consumption behaviors, displaying disparate signs for acquiring a product versus using a service. Facet 2 also corroborates what scholars have found. Out of 3 different streams of information, the most relevant was the confirmation that various parts of the online negative word of mouth, an attack strategy, greatly overlaps with going to a store and complaining, an approach strategy to deal with brand hate. Changing the tone, there are several discordant facets. Facet 3 found that negative past experiences were the most common antecedent, refuting Hagner et al. 2017's verdict that symbolic/image incongruence and ideological incompatibility were the most important. Regarding Facet 4, not only was it hinted that brands can recover from brand hate, but, more notably, the code's stage downgrade and its quotations proved that declining from brand love to brand hate is also possible, contradicting Langdor et al. 2016 study. Facet 5, as the less discordant element, shows that the higher number of brand haters does not necessarily equal more anti-brand community members. In fact, only one person knew about and frequently used those kind of gatherings, being online or offline. Entering the last group, Facet 6 demonstrated that oppositional brand loyalty should be considered a form of symbolic/image incongruence, superseding the boundaries of anti-branding communities literature. The declarations of hate towards Apple and Samsung justify its use in brand hate articles, as hating a brand may also come from loving another. Last but not least is Facet 7, picking up on the barely studied concept of brand hostage and dividing it into, on the one hand, those who are forced to use a brand because there are no viable options. On the other hand, those who hate a brand but still choose to buy it despite having other options. Arriving to the last chapter of this presentation means exploring a few additional conclusions and managerial implications. From a theoretical point of view, research question 1 was met with a clear and comprehensive response that not only defined brand hate, but also presented its determinants and outcomes, everything in the same place, contrary to what happens with a few articles about the topic. Brand hate may then be conceptualized as an extremely negative relationship established between a consumer or customer and the brand or one of its products or services. Its antecedents are corporate misconduct through deceptive communications or environmental disrespect, negative past experiences with the product, service, or brand itself, violating expectations and sometimes creating brand hostages, and last but not least, symbolic/image incongruity, brand self-image incongruence, self-brand image incongruence, and negative country of origin associations. As for its outcomes, they are active brand hate, approach strategies, attack strategies, and passive brand hate, avoidance strategies. When it comes to research question 3, a mixed reply was necessary. Although there is still an open debate on whether brand love and brand hate are situated on opposite sides of the branding spectrum, one of the countering opinions conveys that the most negative state is not hate but indifference. In some cases, they share a similar prototype. A lousy product, service, or company performance may result in a relationship terminating, being a loving or a hating one. But in other aspects, they can be considered inverted mirror images, passionate aversion, and natural unfitness. In terms of managerial implications, companies should invest more and pay more attention to their current customers and consumers that had a negative experience and try to compensate them in a way that is fair for both sides. Thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully this presentation opens the appetite for future studies on the topic of brand hate, trying to explore why it happens, how it happens, and what are the consequences for the relationship between a brand and its products and a brand and its services, for example.